So the idea of selling from stage is simply building a presentation that naturally creates desire for the audience to want to work with you. It's so funny now with like ChatGPT and like how much you can create content and AI. The thing that it lacks is conviction. Conviction is half, or if not more than half, of the equation of a conversion. And so essentially it's if you spend too long below this imaginary line, you lose the sale. Now the imaginary line, or what's underneath the line, is like...
Welcome to the Fuel Your Flow podcast. I am your host, Valerie Fagali, physical therapist turned software CEO and business coach for health and wellness coaches. We are going to be talking about all things health and business. They might be more closely related than you think. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today, I'm excited to welcome Colin Boyd, a world-class speaker, coach, and master of persuasive storytelling. Colin helps entrepreneurs and coaches turn their presentations into powerful sales tools without feeling extra pushy. He's the creator of Sell From Stage Academy and also has a new book, One Presentation Away, where he's trained thousands of experts, including leaders like Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, Jasmine Star, on how to speak with confidence and convert with authenticity. As a former life coach, Colin brings a rare mix of psychology, strategy, and practical wisdom that helps people not just share their message, but sell their vision. Colin, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for this.
It's good to be here, Valerie.
So a little bit of a story about why we're here together and why you're sitting with me today. I have followed you for a long time, and I've been very interested in storytelling through you, and especially conversion storytelling,
yes.
because you are an expert at that. About a month ago, maybe, I'm in a Jasmine Star's mastermind, and she had asked for who we would want as guest speakers. And I said Colin Boyd. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I want Colin Boyd. Make sure you get him here. Yeah. About 2 days later, you messaged me on Instagram, and it was a voice memo, so I knew it was you. And I think it said something like, how are we connected? We seem to know a lot of the same people. So I was thinking, did Jasmine put them up to this? Turns out she did not. No. But we sent a few messages back and forth. I was all excited. I messaged my friend Stacy. Colin Boyd is messaging me. I don't know what's happening in my life right now.
It's all happening.
Yes, it's all happening. So fast forward about 2 weeks later, I see you post in your stories that you are in Newport Beach. And I had booked this podcast studio to do something with Jasmine Star. And I'm like, wow, what a missed opportunity that would be if I didn't ask him if he has the time to come meet. And you said you had just moved back. I'm like, great, he's still going to be here when we have the studio. And so I asked you expecting a no, but I'm like, I'm going to put it out in the world because you got to get 100 no's before you get a yes. And you said yes.
Come on.
So here we are.
Here we are.
And
that's how synchronicities happen.
That's how it happens.
Yes.
So moral of the story, you got to ask. If you don't ask.
You actually do have to ask.
Absolutely.
And I think so many people are scared to ask. And I even think about when it comes to, like growing your business, selling, doing anything, so many times. I remember the first time I asked a really big name whether I could help them out with something, and they said yes. And then we ended up doing like $500,000 in the first presentation, $1 million in the second.
Wow.
And that changed the trajectory of my life. But I felt so unsure about myself on whether like they would want to work with me, they would want to do anything with me, but they said yes, and so you got to ask.
Yes,
lesson number one.
That one yes really propelled you.
100%.
So on that note, give us a little background, because you've worked with some of the top names: Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, Jasmine Star. How did you get to this point where you are coaching others how to have an amazing presentation? I
did lots and lots of speaking. I've been running my coaching business for 17 years full time. And I would say, I started out, just doing presentations in small little workshops. I went into the corporate world. I started speaking in the corporate world. And I would say like it was about 5 years ago, I was actually teaching productivity. So I wasn't teaching speaking. And I remember a woman who was doing 7 figures in her coaching business came to me. She was like, Colin, your productivity stuff's great, but how are you doing this speaking thing? Like, I love the way you present your content and your offers. And that got me thinking about, wow, I wonder if I should teach speaking. And then that kind of unfolded into teaching speaking and then selling from stage and that sort of stuff. But I think I've always been fascinated with, I've seen a lot of people speak and present I personally like struggled so much with it at the start. Like I would shake so hard. Like, do you remember when you had to like hold a microphone, like the old school days where you didn't have like a lapel mic, you're holding this microphone with like this, a cord out the end, and you're hanging onto it with two hands. It's like this anaconda snake that you're like wrestling. That was my life. I was freaking out so much. And, but I realized quickly in my business career that the skill of speaking can literally change your business overnight. Like it's such a powerful skill. Like there's lots of skills to grow your business. For me, speaking was just one of those like accelerator skills. And so that's when I became obsessed with it, but I wasn't teaching speaking. I was just using speaking. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then one of the biggest things I would encourage everyone to do is to make sure you're getting in rooms with people who are pushing, like joining your programs, joining other people's programs. Like when the thing that changed my life fundamentally was betting on myself, investing in myself, putting myself into programs. That's where I met people, rubbed shoulders with people. And then that was how I started to make these bigger connections.
Yes.
And one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. And it's just saying yes to that next scary thing each time. And it just reveals itself as you walk it out.
Yes. And presentations, I mean, that's how we get our message out there. That's how people can see us, they can hear us, they can, visually see what you're all about. And so, and getting in the rooms. I mean, if you don't have those connections, and most people starting out don't have those connections.
I mean, I didn't at all.
And so they feel like, hey, I'm starting here, and how am I ever going to get to that point? And it's just putting one foot in front of the other.
100%.
Yeah.
And if you have no audience, like doing a presentation, I mean, it's so easy these days from the sense of, like you can just run a Zoom, right? You could just run a small Zoom room and just say, hey, I'm going to teach something really cool that my paid clients are using. They're seeing great results. Do you want to come and join us and host it for an hour, no replay, have a Zoom meeting, teach on that thing, and then make an offer at the end.
Yep.
Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy or fancy. And you can just start with that. I know for me, my first webinars, I didn't make any offers. I didn't make any sales. I was just trying to like get better at speaking on virtual stages. And as I got the reps up, then my confidence improved and then grew from there. So
I like that point of you don't need to sell anything. You can just be getting the experience of being on stage. And when you say sell from stage, what does that actually mean, Colin? For me, a stage is any platform where you can visually see you and verbally hear you and emotionally engage with you. Okay. So for me, I mean, I really specialize in presenting on like a webinar or some sort of virtual stage. You could apply it to a video or a video podcast. It's not really my like true expertise. My expertise is really in like a structured presentation. Maybe it's 60 minutes or even 2 days. It doesn't really matter. And it could be in person or it could be virtual. So so the idea of selling from stage is simply building a presentation that naturally creates desire for the audience to want to work with you. Okay. And that's the biggest goal. And I think one of the biggest distinctions of why when people come and work with me, they've seen like the bro marketers who, yes, they can make a lot of money and they spout a lot of numbers, but like you don't really resonate with that sort of style of selling. And that's why maybe, people like Amy or Jenna or what want to come and work with me, because my style is more, it's attraction based as opposed to like pushing based. And so, we can explore that more. Do you have a framework for building a presentation that you have to meet at least these 3 or 4 key things? Yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, there's kind of like 4 parts to any presentation. The first piece is you have to touch people's hearts.
Okay.
And to touch people's hearts, you have to answer a question, which is, do you get me? Like, do you get me? Are you like me?
Okay.
And so in the first like 15 minutes, you have to show them that you understand their problem better than they do. You can articulate their problem better than they do. You share your story, but the conversion story, which we can unpack that as well. But essentially it's a story that is your story, but it attracts them to wanting to work with you. They see themselves in your story. And then the second piece is the big piece is your content. And your content usually has two elements to it, which is shifting minds.
Okay.
So most people teach minds. So they go into their course, they go into their content, and they go, I'm going to teach something really useful, really helpful. And at the end, if they find this really valuable, they got this for free. I'm sure they'll want to pay me. The problem is we tend to overwhelm people with like way too much information.
Yes.
I have this concept in my program called lose the sale line. And the lose the sale line is like this imaginary line. And it actually exists on one-on-one calls and also exists in presentations.
Interesting.
And so essentially it's if you spend too long below this imaginary line, you lose the sale.
Okay.
Now the imaginary line, or it's underneath the line, is like super step practical process. Okay, so these are the 3 things you specifically have to do. The problem is you just load people up with things to do that they won't do because they're not committed yet.
Yes. And that's what I think most people do is they teach the how-tos 100%. On their presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it feels like, I think as a speaker, as a presenter, like it feels good to teach the how-to because you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really helping them.
Yes.
The problem is if you teach too much how-to, like you can teach some, which is because one of the other elements of content is equipping their hands. So you have to teach some, but it's enough for them to go, oh, this stuff is really cool. Like I can see how this works, but it's not going to overwhelm them because the audience isn't actually committed to their outcome yet. They think they are.
Right.
But they're actually not. Yeah. And that leads into the last piece, which is moving their feet and essentially asking them to make a decision to, take that next step forward. So, yeah.
So a lot of people think that in order to give their participants that are coming to the presentation value, that they have to go so deep into those how-tos. But I know you have other ways of providing value. Can you explain that? Yeah,
well, I think, first of all, you have to look at what actually is value. Because I think for me, some of the experiences of being in a room and hearing a speaker that actually changed my life on a really deep level weren't how-to and practical.
Okay.
They might have had a little bit of how-to, but it was usually content that first of all, the person was living it. Like, it's so funny now with like ChatGPT and like how much you can create content and AI. The thing that it lacks is conviction.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, conviction is half or if not more than half of the equation of a conversion.
Okay.
And so you can create content all as much as you want through AI, but unless you embody the content and live the content and truly believe the content, you're not going to sell anything.
Right. Because
people at the core of it, they buy a feeling.
Yes.
They buy a sense of like, this person can actually help me. There's certainty in it. So, so for me, when it comes down to it, value, your question of value, I think shifting people's perspective on a topic is valuable in itself. I'll give you an example. So one of the shifts that I'll usually teach when I'm speaking is people's shift of their perspective of what selling is.
Okay.
So most people see selling as something that feels uncomfortable. It feels like you're kind of asking for money, you're pushing something onto someone, and people just feel generally uncomfortable about it, which is really normal. But people really have to make that shift of that selling is actually, first of all, it's making an offer. So it's an offer is actually an energy. It's actually a feminine energy, an offer.
Interesting.
Because you're asking people to come in. It's like it's a welcoming. Okay. So rather than I'm pushing you, which is a masculine kind of aggressive energy, it's a feminine energy of I'm welcoming you, I'm inviting you into the offer, but there are some boundaries that I have in this offer.
Okay.
And the boundaries are, there is payment that needs to be made, there is energy that needs to be brought, there is time that needs to be given. If you're willing to honor those boundaries, I welcome you into this offer, and in this space, this is where we serve each other at the highest level.
Okay.
And that's why, like, you're in Jasmine's mastermind. Yeah. Her mastermind is protected by a few things. It's got criteria. You have to be at a certain income level. It's a big investment, right? It's a significant investment. And there's like confidentiality. There's a whole bunch of things. That's what makes it so transformational.
Yes.
And so people feel bad about selling, but what if selling wasn't about doing anything to anyone? It was about an invitation to see a sacred transformation that they already want.
I love that reframe because you're actually in some ways doing, you're not pushing anything on them. You're doing something for them. You're offering them all your knowledge, everything that you're going to do to make their life easier in achieving the result that you promise. And setting those boundaries so that they stay committed, right? And one of the things that I feel about providing value as well during a presentation is making sure that they can self-identify whether or not something is right for them. And just knowing that, is this something that I need to worry about or do or not, right? And just being able to help them figure that out is providing value. So I see you as the king of storytelling and again, specifically that conversion storytelling. So I want to dive deeper in that.
Sure.
What is a conversion story and how do people start building it?
Well, it was about 4 years ago that I started studying story, and I noticed that the people who were doing really well when their presentations, their launches, they told a specific type of story. And up until that point, I'd heard about like a signature story or an origin story. And I'd noticed that the people who were really doing well were telling a story in a specific structure, and it was leading to a certain thing. And it's what I call now a conversion story. And what's crazy is, so I'd launched this thing 4 years ago. We were almost at 10,000 members.
Wow.
Paying members in Conversion Story.
That's incredible.
First of all, I just want to say how crazy it is that if you can come up with one idea that is unique or is fresh or hits the market, it literally will change your life. Like Conversion Story for me has changed my entire life. And so the concept is essentially that a conversion story does three things. It connects with the audience. So it answers that first question of like, are you like me? Do you get me? It's that question of that vulnerability. The second piece it answers is credibility, which is, can you lead me? Like, have you been through something? Have you achieved something? Can you lead me? It's that sense of almost invincibility. And then the third piece is the core premise, which is that one core idea that when the audience hears it and believes it, your offer is the logical and compelling next step.
Got it.
So vulnerability or challenge combined with credibility combined with the core premise, and that's kind of the flow of the story. So you're going to basically tell a story that encapsulates essentially the transformation that you've been through with the vehicle that you use or the concept of the vehicle that you use.
Now, I have seen people actually go both ways, but mostly on webinars or workshops go on and on about their credentials and their, background and their kids and like everything about their life before they even get into the value, right? And then on the other end of that, you see people dive in right into these are the 5 pillars to get this result. And then they sell for 2 seconds right at the end. So how do you weave in that conversion story and, not necessarily an origin story, but more that conversion story throughout the presentation so that it's not overbearing for people?
Well, I think first of all, you have to understand what the difference between what really good storytelling is and what sometimes people do. And so you articulated that so well, which is sometimes people, they go too much into their credibility because it's like they're trying to prove to the audience that they know what they're talking about, like that they can lead them, etc. The problem with that is it's actually creating status, and status creates separation. So any sort of status creates separation. That's why like a Louis Vuitton bag or, a really like a Bentley or something, it creates status, actually creates separation from the average. Now, status is attractive, but it also makes the audience feel like you're not like me. That's why when you combine a story where you start in a place where you had struggle, where you had difficulty, where you weren't at the status level, you're driving the Honda or the Toyota instead of the Bentley. It's like you start in the Honda and you take them to the Bentley. And so if you can speak in or tell your story in a way where it's like, your story reveals that you're just like them. You've struggled like them. You've had difficulties like them. And then you obviously unpack that journey of transformation. You get to the credibility and then you link it to this core idea. So for me, it is that you're one presentation away from the breakthrough you want in your business, right? It's all around speaking. Everyone's going to have their own core premise, their own unique core premise. And your unique core premise is valid and powerful for you and your business and your clients. So essentially the story needs to be told in a way where the audience hears your story, but they feel theirs.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And one way of doing that is by taking time throughout your story to unpack the emotions that you're experiencing, the dissonance you were going through. And so, for example, that could be, I know for me, when I first started my coaching business, I had these big desires of running a coaching business, of doing something meaningful, of making great money, of having freedom in my life. But the reality was that I didn't know where to get clients. I was struggling to make barely any money or get any. In fact, I had half a client. I don't know if you've ever had half a client
Half
before.
a client. What exactly does that mean?
So they're like one of those ones who they turn up to every like second session, and then they pay you every third time. So I had half a client, and I was just distraught. I just didn't know what to do.
Yep.
Now, first of all, I'll just press pause. Those emotions are universal. Like whether you want to just run a business or start a coaching business, obviously, I work a lot with people in the expert space, but when you tell your story with universal emotions and dissonance, the audience goes, oh my gosh, I've felt like that as well, right? Yeah. Every human being has.
Yeah, we've all had that half a client. Now, yes, just you saying that and explaining what that means to me, I'm like, I can think of people there, I can see myself there, which is the point, right? You want your person listening.
They hear your story but feel theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get exactly getting what you're putting down.
Love it.
So with storytelling, a lot of times when I go to make a presentation, it's like all the stories leave my body and I've never lived a moment in my life and I can't find anything to talk about.
Yeah.
That being said, I know that we can make stories out of going to the grocery store, the most boring, monotonous things, right? Yeah. How would you recommend like tangible tips for people to start building some stories that they can use for presentations and making those stories meaningful to the result of their presentation?
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes back to this idea of like, sometimes people say, I don't have any stories, but so many situations in your life could be a story. I remember I was dropping my daughter off when she was younger. She was like 4 years old. She was at like daycare and she was screaming at me across the playground. And I was, as a classic engaged dad, I'm on my phone scrolling through social media.
No, you're not alone.
And I'm like, hey Georgia. And she's like screaming over me. And I was just not paying attention. And I watched this little kind of blonde haired girl. She's got like two pigtails and this little pink dress. She runs over, she taps on the side of my leg, and I look down. She's looking up at me with her big blue eyes. And I bend down. And I was like, what's up, Georgia? And she like whispers into my ear. She's like, Dad, I'm really scared to go across the playground. Can you hold my hand?
Oh, baby.
And I'm like, oh, dagger to the heart, right? And I held her hand. We walked across the playground, and I realized that so often in life, when we try to grow our business and market ourselves, we're shouting. Yeah. We're shouting, but no one's listening. Yes. But when we whisper the words that go deep into people's hearts, they move.
Okay. So that story is not at all about your daughter at the playground or the cell phone. It's about speaking the right words and the right messaging.
Yeah. Okay. So the question you ask is, first of all, like, what was that about?
Yep.
So the question, because you always have, in terms of content, there's levels. So there's literal content, which is like the story of, Georgia, blonde hair, pink tails, pink dress, whispering my ear, all that sort of stuff, playground. Then there's the what is that about, or what is the lesson, you could say. That's like the next level, which is kind of the conceptual idea. And so for me, the lesson was whisper the right words and people move.
Okay.
And then what is that about? What is that about? That is about empathy.
Okay.
Right? We can chunk up further. And so in any story, you would have gone through some things or experienced things, but you say, but that was like really personal for me. Yeah. And you're like, first of all, you're not that special, that it was just personal for you. Most people have been through something similar. Yeah. But even if they haven't, you just chunk up and you just go, what's the lesson? Okay. And the lesson becomes somewhat universal a lot of the time.
Okay. So you're working backwards in those stories where you're saying, what's the lesson I want to teach? Yeah. And then what's a story that I've experienced and lived and felt that can relate to other people to go along with it? I
think there's two ways you can find stories. One way is you can just ask yourself, what were the most challenging moments of my life? Okay. What was the most, difficult, challenging, overwhelming moments of my life. What are some big breakthroughs I've had in my life? What are some things that I've kind of achieved that were adventurous? Maybe you've climbed a mountain, you've jumped off a cliff, you've like done skydiving. Like I've seen Brendan Burchard, he tells his story of skydiving. He tells his story of his car crash.
Okay.
Then you can ask questions like, what were some of the funniest moments of my life?
Okay.
Silly moments are great ones, like where you were like self-deprecating moments.
Oh,
where
like
you
embarrassment?
Embarrassing ones.
It's a strong emotion.
Yeah, strong embarrassment, because people resonate with that.
Yeah.
And as soon as you tell an embarrassing story, it makes you endearing. It actually makes you attractive.
Okay.
But if you can couple it with the fact that when you're on stage, or you show them that you've got results, and you couple it with an embarrassing story, that's actually the equation for charisma.
Interesting.
Charisma is the intersection between invincibility and some vulnerability. And so when you get the right balance right, you become magnetic.
I have a lot of stories now because I've lived a lot of embarrassing moments.
They're great.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even just you being like an entrepreneur, being a business owner, creating content, like that creates status. That creates like, I'm showing up, I'm leading, I'm developing, I'm building teams, I'm doing all sorts of stuff. So there's status in that already, and what you've achieved. And then you tell some embarrassing stories, and people like, they feel that, and they're like, oh my gosh, she just like me. I feel like she gets me, right?
And then how do you take me?
Yeah, and then the next step is, how do we work together, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. And I also like how you framed it in a way that it doesn't, yes, you also talked about these bigger things that we can remember in our life, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the big moments. And
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people get caught, because they're like, have I not lived enough, experienced enough to tell stories, when really it's just those little things that maybe, you thought you had a friend in middle school and they turned out to,
Great story.
Yeah, go against you. Who hasn't experienced that, right? Yeah. A lot of people who are listening to this are having a tough time with getting the confidence, not only to actually have the webinar, actually have the presentation, but then to sell their product online. So when it comes online, or you know what I mean, on a virtual presentation, when it comes to building confidence in what they're talking about, what are some tangible things they can do?
I think there's 3 levels of confidence. The first level is, have you experienced the product and the breakthrough and what you teach yourself? So it's like a personal confidence.
Okay.
And so most people just start with that.
Okay.
That's where I started. That's where most people start. They're like, oh my gosh, this has been amazing, and I just want to share it, right? Yeah. That's the first layer of confidence. The second layer of confidence is when you've got clarity on how that result is created. So it's like clarity of confidence, clarity in the process. Okay. So the first one is like, have you personally gone through it? The second one is, do you know the process you need to follow to get there? And then the third one, do you have proof? Okay. Which is, do you have social proof? Have you been able to extrapolate this process out into enough people's lives to go, no, this can actually work in other people's lives. So those, first of all, I see it as 3 levels. And a lot of the times that is just testing. Like, for example, for me, when I started coaching, I did 100 free coaching hours, one-on-one coaching hours, before I ever did a paid coaching session.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get confident I knew that coaching was powerful, but I was like, I just want to get confident in the process and get clear on it. I want to get proof that it actually, I'm like any good. Yeah. And then I started charging. It's like with speaking, when I started speaking, I spoke for free, and I just got free speaking. I hosted my own webinars, and I didn't even sell anything. I just practiced it. Like, there's something about that repetition that you can, AI can't reproduce repetition. Like, you have to get it in your body and people feel it. So first of all, that's a big one. The second big one is just deciding that you are going to lead.
Okay.
I feel, for me, I really struggled with this because I didn't see myself as a leader. I thought like a leader had to be wearing like a suit, and they had to be like assertive and know where they're going all the time and like cast vision. And I was like, that's not really my style. And I remember my youth leader called me out one day, and she was like, Colin, you seem like you're involved in the example she gave was a metaphor. She goes, Colin, I feel like you're riding in a pack, like a bicycle pack, a peloton, and you're riding with the peloton, but you never pull out of the peloton and sit at the front of the peloton. And if you see like Tour de France or something like that, and they take their turns, they pull into the front of the peloton, and they get the grit and the mud and the wind, and like you're sitting at the front, you're pulling the pack. And it's like leadership decides to like step out and sit at the front of the peloton, and you pull the pack.
Okay.
And I realized I was too scared to pull the pack. And one day I just decided I remember I said, I'm going to be a freaking whale. That's what I decided. I literally said, I'm just like, I am going to be a freaking whale.
For context, where we're speaking to health and wellness professionals that might think that a whale means something different.
The goal wasn't a physical whale. It was that like I was the whale in my niche.
Yes.
So good. I just saw a funny reel on that actually the other day, but anyway, I digress. Because I remember I was sitting in a room one day and there was people around me, and if I was honest, like I was like, I'm as good as them in what I do. I was like, I'm easily as good as them, but they are earning like 10 times the amount of money and having success than me. And I realized it was because I was scared.
Yeah.
I was just afraid. And I was like, because I saw them, I'm like, they're like a whale in their niche. And I'm like, I want to be a freaking whale. And I remember I decided that. And it was actually about 3 months later that I worked with Amy Porterfield.
Wow. So that was once you made that decision. It
literally changed my life. Yeah.
And sometimes it is as simple as that, as deciding that we are going 100%. All in, you know, and I'm good at this. And so...
Yeah, you kind of like knight yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's like waiting for someone to come up and knight them and be like, you are officially a speaker. Like, you are officially a leader. You're an entrepreneur. Oh. It's like, let's just friggin' knight ourselves and just get on with it.
I like that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I saw an old picture of you, by the way, in a suit. I was doing my research, and I'm like, that doesn't look like him. So I'm glad that you moved past that and feel like you don't.
Well, I used to do a lot of corporate stuff, so that was where I always had to wear the suit.
So you have a new book coming out, which I'm so excited for. I have pre-ordered, and I recommend everybody pre-orders because I know that what you teach can be transformational. But a couple things on that. I do want to get into the book and what's in the book, but also I saw you during your pre-launch period now releasing quite a few high-value bonuses, and I just want to know what your strategy is behind that.
Behind the pre-launch bonuses?
Bonuses, yes. Yeah. I feel like almost every week I'm like, oh, Colin's got a new bonus coming out. So tell us a little bit, you know, how do bonuses change?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's value in pre-orders. So if anyone does a book, when people pre-order the book, because when on opening day, all the pre-orders get counted on one day.
Okay.
So the power of that is like significant in you know, achieving something on a list or something like that. For me, the pre-order bonuses are, I want to reward people instantly because they have to wait for the book. Okay. And depending on, you know, when this comes out, the book will be released in October, and it's like I always like to reward people right away.
Yes.
And so one bonus we have is it's called the $100,000 presentation vault. So I go behind the scenes of people that I've worked with and students and members who've made more than $100,000 in one presentation. And it's like, how much money did you spend? What strategies did you use? What did you teach? What went wrong? Like, it's like behind the scenes, it's under the hood of the Ferrari of like what it really looks like. And so you get access to 4 in-depth interviews about people who've done that and strategies they used.
Wow.
And then I've got a get on stage with confidence guide, which is like, what should you do before you get on stage to really create a sense of confidence in your body, your psychology, so you communicate well.
Okay. Tell us about the book. What's in the book?
So the book's called One Presentation Away. It's all about becoming an irresistible speaker and converting clients. And so the core idea of the book is that in one presentation, that can grow your business significantly. And essentially the book is, I mean, it's what we've been talking about today. Like all the content we've talked about today is in the book at some level and unpacked in some level. So essentially it's like, how do you prepare yourself to get on stage, right? The mindset, the confidence, the strategies. The second piece is, how do you actually build the presentation? The third piece is, how do you deliver it? And then the fourth one is like, where are the stages?
Okay.
How do you get on stage
Yeah.
yourself? So either create your own stage or, get booked to be on stage. And so that's essentially the flow of the book. And it's for any entrepreneur, any coach, speaker, expert who just wants to become better at speaking. But it's not just speaking in general. It is being an irresistible communicator that attracts your audience, where you get off the stage virtually or in person and people are like, that was amazing. And how the heck do I work with you? Mm-hmm. And I remember I got off stage one time. I was speaking at a James Wedmore event, actually. It was in Laguna, and there was nothing to sell. I wasn't selling anything. It was just what I call a no-sell presentation. And I got off. There was a line of people up to come and say hello. And I think it was the second woman. She physically gave me her credit card, and she's like, "Colin, I don't know what you sell, but I know I need to buy it." And she gives me a physical credit card, and I ran. No.
You're like, and that's that.
I'm
That
out
is
of
why
here, right?
I am now a millionaire.
Totally. I'm still using it. No, I was like, no, I can't actually take this from you right now. I gave it back to her. She ended up becoming a client, but that's the goal, right? Is for people to want to work with you.
They're investing in you and not necessarily your program.
Yeah, yeah, and so they're investing in that idea of like that next level of commitment for their own goals.
Okay,
so. It's good. Yeah, so that's what the book's about.
Okay, and it can help with more than just presentations. Communication outside of your presentation is what I'm hearing as well.
Yeah.
So I've pre-ordered it. Recommend everybody else does. Let's go ahead and link that in the show notes. Yeah. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation from today. Any links we discussed will be in the show notes below. Also, we would be incredibly grateful if you would leave us a 5-star review. This helps us keep the podcast going so that we can continue to provide value for all of you. I hope we see you on the next one.